What's up, guys? Jahi the pedestrian here. You can call me Jahi. Let's get started. In today's video, we have a story time, and this is one of my favorite stories to tell just because of how bizarre it is and just how much random bullshit happened that I honestly just never expected to. This story time takes place sophomore year. This is my third time smoking, so it's an average day. I'm sitting on my couch, weedless, bored, of course, because when it's your third time smoking, you're not going out buying weed. At least I know I wasn't. Like, I had a family. I couldn't just bring bud into the house like that. Like, I wasn't experienced enough. So I'm sitting and I get a text on my phone, and it's from my boy, who shall remain anonymous. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna call him Jake. So Jake hits me up and he's like, "Hey man, I've got some fire bud and I've got this glass blunt. If you come over in the next 20 minutes, we can probably smoke before my parents get home." So I'm like, okay. Now Jake has been smoking like for a long time, like way longer than I have. He knows all the ins and outs. He knows everything. Like, every time I have a question about gas or anything just fucking weed related, I ask this guy. So he hits me up. He's like, "Hey man, you want to smoke?" I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure. What's the worst that can happen?" So what's the worst that can happen? You're gonna see in a minute. So I go to his house. Now Jake has been caught multiple times, but that didn't stop him. So Jake's parents are honestly fed up at this point, so they have cameras all over, not for like intruders and shit, just to make sure he doesn't sneak out or just pull any shit. And they're all just like outside of the house. They're on the front door, they're in the back, there's one on like the garage, there's like motion sensors. Like, if anyone were to open that door and like to knock on the door or do anything, they would know. So naturally, as you can guess, this made smoking with him a lot harder. So what he had to do, he had to get all of his shit, climb through the window, and then we had to smoke in his backyard with a camera. But we had this little blind spot and we had to be really quiet because he told me that the camera picked up audio, which I'm still like he didn't know for sure, but like we assumed it did. So we're sitting there, and then he's like, "Hey, you want to hit up my friend, see if she can smoke with us?" I'm like, "Sure, man." And he calls her. She says she can smoke. I'm like, "Oh, fuck yeah, the more the merrier." So she gets here and we smoke, right? And I have never had cottonmouth as bad as I did that day. I mean, I don't know what it was, because as soon as I hit it felt like, I don't know if I hit it wrong, or I don't know, I didn't like inhale correctly, but as soon as I did it, it felt like fire, just straight flames, just fire going into my entire body. My entire body was just, it was incredibly hot, to the point where it felt like it burned and just turned to ash. Like, it was so dry. It felt like my throat wasn't even there. I remember I felt like I wanted to throw up. Like, I had fucking spit, but I couldn't swallow, so it was just kind of like building up in my throat. I know that's gross, but that's what happened. And I remember, like, I was like, "Oh my god," and I was leaning and shit, like I was fucking bumping into the fence. He was like, bro, calm down." Everyone's over there laughing. I'm like, "Bro, this is funny." So stupid me, I take another hit. I'm at 3 hits now. I think I took one more, and by now, you know how it is. You have a low-ass tolerance. I had a low-ass tolerance. 2 hits of some good bud, and I was gone. So I took 4 hits. Let me tell you, this was some good shit. So I took 4 hits of that, and my throat's gone. Luckily, I had a soda, so that kind of helped. And eventually, the girl that Carter called her, we'll call her Maddie. We're gonna call her Maddie. Eventually, Maddie had to leave, so it's just me and Carter. And this is when the weed started to really kick in, because honestly, the best way I can describe this feeling is, whenever you have like a really like bad DVD and you put it in it, like it kind of skips, but not how like video games skip, from like it lags. It like skips, like it skips scenes. Like, it'll go from like, say they're at like the diner, it'll go, they're in like the bedroom now, like it'll skip different parts. That's what was happening to me while I was high. I remember it felt like every single time I blinked, I was like in a new position, and it kept happening. Like over and like every time I blinked, I had teleported somewhere else, and I was so scared. If on shrooms, I was just like, oh my god, what's going on, bro, calm down, you're just high. When I look back on, what the fuck was I doing? Like, weed is weed, don't freak out, don't kill the high like that, man. So I was sitting there freaking out, because the weed I smoked last time was not this powerful. I didn't even know weed could get this powerful. I had never heard of fucking DVD skipping. And I remember it was so scary that I ended up just like walking backwards and just hugging his fence so I wouldn't fucking explode. I felt like I was gonna start like flying in the air. I started like hugging his fence. I was like, okay, whatever this gravity is, whatever this force is, can't get me here. And I started to calm down. He looks at me, he's like, bro, yeah man. He's like, you gotta go. And I look at him, I'm like, what? He's like, yeah man, you gotta go. Well, can't we just stay like and chill or something? He's like, nah, you gotta go. Like, my parents are gonna be home. Just like, oh fuck. This was bad because I had never been this high and like left on my own. I can handle it now, but then I had to walk off. Actually, I couldn't walk home. I couldn't go home. I had to stay outside. I had to go outside. I had to walk around, try not to get hit by a car. And most of you watching are probably gonna say, well, you get hit by a car? Like, what's your tolerance, man? Like, how are you this low? I have to leave his house, and I'm all alone. I start walking. I'm trying to act as normal as possible because there are people on, like, the sidewalk, like, walking their dogs, riding their bikes and shit. I'm trying to act as normal as possible because I didn't have a mask. This was, like, still during quarantine. It's like, I didn't, like, I mean, quarantine is now, but, like, this was, like, during then. I didn't have a mask. So I was just walking, and I remember I just started smiling like a maniac. Like, I was just, like, the brightest smile. I don't even know what I was smiling about. Something was just funny. Like, it was really funny. And I started smiling like the fucking Joker, and I could see people in their cars, and just, like, people walking by just fucking looking like, what the fuck is he on? And I already knew my eyes were red as shit. So I start walking around, and I already have a plan in my head of what I was gonna do. The only problem was if I could actually do it. So right by I live, there's this park, and well, it's not really a park, it's more like a school, but there's like a park or like a playground there, and it's like the main spot to chill at. So I'm like, okay, let's go to this park. That's what I need to do. Focus. This is your objective. I start marching to the park, and I think I got about 40 seconds there before my brain just like completely did a hard reset and just started doing its own thing, because before I knew it, I was on like an entirely different street. That was not the way to the park. I was like, where the fuck am I? So I started looking around, like, okay, I started going there. The same thing happens again. 30 seconds later, my brain goes fucking MIA for a minute, and I start walking in random streets, and before I know it, I'm on a random street again. So I'm like, okay, am I walking in circles? So I'm like, and now I don't know where I am. Like, I have no idea where I am. Okay, what fucking street is this? Obviously, if I was sober, I could have like navigated better, or I honestly could have just looked on my phone on like maps or something, just walked there, but I was too high for that shit. I couldn't even unlock my phone. Like, I couldn't remember the password, and I didn't have fingerprints set up then. So I'm like, okay, where the fuck am I? I start walking, and I see this girl. I look at her, I squint. I remember I stood there. I probably looked like the most weirdest person, because I stood there, and I stared at her. I squinted my eyes. I was like, is that the girl I just smoked with? I squint my eyes, and I'm like, it is her. And she notices me. She's like, oh hey, and she fucking walks over to me. And guys, this is where things get a little bizarre, like I said. So she walks over to me, and I'm like, oh hey. She's like, oh, you're still high? I'm like, yeah, I'm blasted. And I was like a 10 out of 10 high. Like, this is, she's like, oh, you're still high? I'm like, oh, I'm fucking blasted. And she's like, oh, that's good to know. It's good to know. So I'm like, how are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm like, okay, so what are you doing? We have a normal conversation. She's like, oh, I was just going around, like, in the neighborhood, because she was in, like, this Girl Scouts, like, Boy Scout thing. And she, I was just, like, going around, passing out these papers. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. And, I'm like, and guys, I don't know why I said this. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea to say. But I looked at her, and I was like, just out of the blue, like, complete subject change. I was like, so you want to And she looked at me, and then she laughed and was like, I mean, maybe. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, I didn't expect to get this far. Like, I was just fucking absolutely stunned. Like, wait, really? And she's like, well, I mean, I don't really know you that well, and you're high. So, like, I don't want you, like, making a decision that, you won't, that you're gonna regret when you're sober. And I was like, oh, no, you don't have to worry about that. Because, once again, I was high. She's like, yeah, plus you're high, and I don't want you making a decision that you might regret, you know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, I understand. I'm like, okay, well, why don't I just give you my number so I can call you back when I'm sober? And then she just laughed. And she's like, you sound so desperate. And yeah. But, I was high. And you know how it is. Like, when, like, you're first starting to smoke, it's like you're a different person when you're high. Like, now I can kind of control it. But before, it was just like I shape-shifted to, like, an entirely different person. So she's just like, you're so desperate. And I was like, yeah. I kind of laughed it off. And I'm like, so is that a yes? And she's like, it's a maybe. And I was like, that's basically a yes. You know what I mean? Like, that's a yes. So she gives me her number, and I continue on my adventure to find this park that I've been trying to find for the past 15 minutes. And I start walking down the road, and as soon as I leave her, probably like 5 minutes after, I call her again. I don't know why I did this. Why did I call her? I called her again, and she was like, hey. And then we started talking. Honestly, I don't even remember, like, what we were talking about. I know she told me, like, a lot of stuff that I told her when I was high. It was just a bunch of dumb shit. But, like, I don't remember, like, what the conversations were about. Like, I couldn't tell you. But I remember we talked for about, like, 30 minutes straight. And I don't know, like, she was just, like, she was cool as fuck. Like, she was, like, it was just a chill ass time when we were just talking. And I think the reason I wanted to stay on the phone with her is because she helped she kind of helped control my high. Because when I was, like, left alone, I was kind of, like, left to my own thoughts, and I was just like, I needed to focus. Like, I needed to find this park. So we sat on the phone, or not sat, but I was on the phone while walking to this park, and I'm halfway there. I can see the park. I'm like, yes, finally. So I get to the park. I'm like, okay, now all I gotta do is I gotta sit here and I gotta just wait this high off. So I sit down on the slide, not the bench. I don't know why I sat on the slide. Like, I went to the slide and I sat on it. So I'm sitting there on the slide, and I turn on YouTube and I start watching fucking Brawlhalla tournaments. You ever play Brawlhalla? I don't really like the game that much anymore, but the tournaments are fun to watch. So I'm sitting there watching a Brawlhalla tournament, and all of a sudden I get a call on my phone. And who is it? If you guessed the girl, you're wrong. It was my mom. Now, this was an instant red alert, because whenever my mom calls me, it's either to check in or telling me to come home. Like, 80% of the time, it's her telling me to come home. So I look at it, and I don't answer it. Smart move. Why didn't I answer it? Because, once again, this was my third time smoking. I knew for a fact, that if I were to talk to her on the phone, she would instantly know. Just like that. She would instantly know that I was high. So I don't answer the phone. Like, I don't decline it. Actually, I should have declined it, like, immediately, because I think that would, like, let her know that my phone was probably dead. But I just let it ring, and that was even more sus. So I let it ring. I just ignored the call and kept watching Brawlhalla. Like I wasn't worried about it. I was like, okay, I'll go home in like an hour. Honestly, I thought the high was gonna last for like another 30 minutes. Dead wrong. I was like, okay, I'll go back in like an hour. So I sit there, I get another call, and then another one. I wait both of them out. Don't even attempt to answer them. Because I was still high. I get a text. By now, it's been like 25 minutes, so I'm like, okay, I should probably start getting ready to go home. But the problem was, I wasn't sober yet. In fact, it just kept on rising. Like, it kept getting worse. I was like, oh fuck, okay, this is bad. This is not good. It's getting late. It's like, I have to be home soon. I cannot stay here forever. She's starting to call and text me like, this is not good. So I just decided the only real thing that I can do is just sit here and wait. Because I mean, like, what else can I do? I can't go home because my mom knows, like, she knows. And she's so cautious, like, she's so suspicious for like, you'll do nothing and she'll just be suspicious of. I remember my brother came in the house with like a green sucker, and then he put it like on his pillow, and then she came in his room, and then she was like, what's this? He was like, it's a sucker. And she was like, because it didn't have like a brand on it. It was just like a sucker with like plastic on it, and it was green. And then she thought it was a weed sucker. So she was like, what? This is a weed sucker, isn't it? This is a weed sucker. What? I didn't even know they make those. So yeah, she's doesn't play around. So, that was immediately like not an option. Like, there was no way I could go home or answer those calls. So I sat there. I waited it out. She kept calling. She kept texting. And then eventually my sister texted me. Oh, my sister never calls me. So I'm like, okay, this shit is serious. And I don't want to answer her because, like, at this point, I'm still high. Like, it kept going up. I sit there on the slide and I ignore her calls. And I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. And I turn it off. I put it in my pocket. I turn it off. And I lay there on the slide, facing like the clouds, just a beautiful ass view. And I was just like, all right, let me just relax, because what's the worst that can happen? She gets worried and I come home, my breath smelling nice, my eyes aren't red, I don't smell like weed. Like, what's the worst that can happen? So I sit there, I'm cooling, I'm relaxing, and this fucking family pulls up to the park. There's a school, and they come right to the spot where I am. Then I hear this kid, and then the kid starts approaching me. I start to close my eyes so the kid doesn't like look at me, and then I feel him touching me. He's touching my chest, and I open my eyes and he's just right there. I'm like, what the? I open my eyes and the kid is right there, and it scared the shit out of me. Like, it scared me so much. I jumped up. I was like, oh! Because I was high, and then the kid, he scurried back, and his parents, they got him, and I was sitting there just like, oh no, it's okay. I was acting all nice, I was like, because I wasn't that mad, it was just kind of weird. I was like, oh no, it's okay. And I remember that kid just absolutely fucked up the entire vibe I had going on. Like, I was chill as fuck. He came out of nowhere and just destroyed it all. So now I'm like my fucking adrenaline is up. I'm sitting there, back straight up. I'm sitting on the slide. I'm looking around like a hawk. And when you're high, you start to like kind of hear things that aren't there. I heard like cars pulling up, so I thought it was my mom. I don't know why. Like, it's a school. It could have been anyone. I thought it was my mom. I turn around super quick. I know this was sus because the family, they were right there. So I turn around super quick to see if anyone's there. No one's there. No one. Like, what I heard was nothing. It was in my head. I look there. I see, like, even though I observe that nobody is in the parking lot besides the family that just pulled up, I still just like, I'm sitting there, my eyes wide open, just staring blankly into the parking lot, just staring, just at nothing. And then the family fucking starts to look at me like that, and I was always like, okay, I probably need to stop. Like, this looks weird. It's starting to get dark. I need to start heading home. It's dark outside, so I don't really have to worry about everyone looking at me and me looking like a fucking idiot. So I go home, and I fucking accepted it because I didn't have time to go and buy gum. I was still high, so my eyes were still red. I didn't smell like weed because we had smoked outside and like it was windy, so I probably didn't smell like weed. But those are already red flags enough. So I was walking home. I was just like, fuck. Well, it was fun while it lasted. I'm walking home, just into the lion's den, and when I get there, I see my sister and my dad, and they're getting in the car. And my dad, he talks to me. He's like, "Oh hey, son." I'm like, "Oh hey." And he's like, "Oh hey, where are you coming from?" I'm like, "Oh, I was coming from the park. It was a far walk. I don't have my bike because my bike had broke." Oh, that's what I forgot to say. As I was riding, my bike literally broke. Like, it was the most unfortunate thing to happen out of like this day of all days. But as I was riding, like the bolt that attached like the pedal to the bike, it popped off. So I was just pedalless, and I had to walk my bike and my pedals home. I don't know how that could have happened, but he's like, "Oh, well, me and your sister are about to go to this park," because they would always go to this like soccer field like way far out, and my dad would play soccer, and she'd like play with her friends in there. It was just like good vibes every time they went there. And oh yeah, no, we're finna go over there. You want to come with us? This is probably the best thing that could have happened to me in this moment. My eyes lit up. I was like, yes. I get in the car so fast. I didn't even go inside the house to tell my mom that I was home. I went to the car and just let my dad tell her, because I was like, fuck yes, I don't have to look at her. I don't have to talk to her. Like, she doesn't have to look inside my eyes. I was like, this is perfect. So I sit in the car. I lay down on the car seat. I don't have a seatbelt on. I'm laying down fucking vertically. And yeah, I try to go to sleep. I get on the phone with the girl to calm me down, and my high just, it slowly starts to go down. And I'm cooling. It was a nice day. I had some food, we ate. That kind of fixed my breath. My eyes weren't red anymore. And by the time I went home, everything was normal. She was just like, "Don't do that again." And I was like, okay. And that was that. Wait a minute. You thought the story was over? No, it gets better. So, this was about 1 day before me and my family had to go to Mississippi for my grandma's 100th birthday, right? So everyone's all routed up, like everyone's packing, everyone's like getting shit arranged, like it's just a lot of like stress, a lot of like stuff going around. And I'm sitting there the next day. My friend Julian comes over, and he's just like, and like we talk, we get some McDonald's, and like we're in the room playing Skate 3, and then all of a sudden my mom, she comes in the room, and she's like, "Hey Jahi, let me see your phone. I need to call your dad," because she said that her phone died. So I'm like, I didn't think much of it, and I'm like, okay, all right. So I give her my phone, and about 10 minutes later, it hits me. I get like my fucking heartbeat just starts rising. I'm like, fucking anime chorus music starts playing in the fucking background. I'm just like, oh shit. I remembered. I didn't delete the messages that I sent to people when I was high. I had a bunch of messages on Snapchat that I was sending people. Like, "Oh bro, I'm so high, yeah, man, I just smoked like 30 minutes ago." They were saving the messages. I didn't save them. They did. And I fucking remembered. I was like, wait a minute. So essentially what I did, guys, is I made it seem like me texting that girl and her saving the messages was just like a game, like a challenge that someone else told me to do. And it fucking worked. I was flabbergasted at the fact that it actually worked. Like, it fucking worked. She hands me her phone, she's like, oh, okay. Like, and she was still mad, and she was like, just take your phone back. I was like, okay, all right. So, yeah, and I called back that girl, and we talked for the rest of the night, and then we left for Mississippi the next morning, and no one knew. Now that I look back at it, it ended well, you know. Ultimately, it was a happy ending, but there's just a lot of things I can learn from that story. Just, I came this close, and yeah, that's it. See ya.